Hey, everyone. I'm your host, James Jackson, and this is ARCast. Join me each episode as we shine a spotlight on our category management or shopper insights professional doing compelling work in the trenches. If you're ready, let's dive right in. I'm here today with Kate Foxbauer, and she is a senior category development advisor at Welch's. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, hope you had a good New Year.
I did. Yes.
Okay. Good with the kids and everything. As you're probably well aware, we're going to go through your career, touch some high points, ask some questions about things you like and don't like, and so on. But before we begin, I have a question for you. And I couldn't help but notice on your profile on LinkedIn that you have a little stint or areas around running with kids. So I'm wondering, what does running mean to you?
Oh gosh. I'm really glad that you brought that up. So, a couple years ago, I guess I should say 905 days ago,
Oh, wow.
I decided that I was going to start running 1 day or 2 miles every day. And it had to be at least a mile, but my goal is always 2 miles. So if I'm sick or something, I might cut it down to a mile. But that was really just a way to start driving myself to be better. And then along those same lines, in Cincinnati here, we have the Flying Pig Marathon. And it is one of the best, if you've never been, it is one of the best events, I think, in the country. The energy and the just beauty of the entire event that comes to this city is so much fun and it's so positive. And so I wanted to find a way to get my kids more involved. And so they have what's called the Kids 26 Mile. And so what happens is leading up to the Flying Pig, every week we get together and we run a mile. And then other event or other stuff counts towards it. So if they have lacrosse practice or they have basketball practice, that also counts towards their miles. So at the end of 10 weeks, they run what's called the final mile, and it leads up to 26 miles for a marathon, but they're doing it over 10 weeks. And so our school also hosts it. So every Thursday morning, starting in February, I will be coaching along with my husband, who is a major supporter of this, and a couple other people from the community. We will be meeting the kids at 7:50 in the morning to run a mile before school. And it's the best 10 weeks probably of the year, just because the energy and the passion these kids bring. And then that led to actually me getting involved with Girls on the Run, if you're familiar with that organization, and bringing that back to our school. So COVID kind of shut a lot of things down. And so we brought it back to the elementary school with my daughter's class. And I will say I probably learned more from that coaching that program than the girls did. It was such an amazing program. And I really encourage anybody who is interested in it to just get into it. But it's really just running has become this way to open my mind and just it's so therapeutic and so it just makes me feel so good. And it's one way to easily get something checked off for the day. Like I did that. So 905 days later, here we are.
Wow. Okay. When you said 905, I'm like, oh, she's really into this. I applaud you for that. I am a terrible runner. So I try, but now you've encouraged me to get to the gym here tonight and try to get on the treadmill and start doing it again.
I would say I was a terrible runner too. I mean, my first marathon, I think my pace was a 12:30 mile. And I'm going for like a 9:30 in my half marathon coming up in May.
So just the point that you said you actually did a marathon is good enough for me. All right.
The marathon's one and done.
Okay,
I don't think
good.
I'll go back and do another
Okay.
one.
All right. Well, this was good. I'm glad I asked the question. It brought out a little something that I didn't expect. So that's awesome. We're ready to get into your career now. So if you are ready, let's get in the trenches.
Absolutely.
Let's get in the trenches. All right. So just before we completely dive in, I know you've been working in pretty much every area that is of relevance to our community. So category management, shopper insights, space planning. And I'm just wondering, do you have a favorite?
All of them contribute so much to the entire industry, but I would have to say consumer insights because I think it's really the foundation. Every decision we make is based in what's right for the consumer and what they're telling us they want. And so really understanding, and that consumer is almost like an unsolvable puzzle, right? It's a
Yeah.
continuously moving target as to what decision they're going to make, why they're going to make that decision, what macro factors are impacting it, what factors in just their life are impacting it.
Mhm.
And so it's always this puzzle that's moving and changing, and you never quite solve it, but it's really fun to get close.
Love it. Love it. So that gets me to my next question. So, and as we talked before, you said you're a people watcher. And so that could be spooky, but anyway, when it comes to that, what are you seeing with our
Yes.
customers and our shoppers? And you brought up macro even in the last question, but what are you seeing? And it might be in general by generations. Would really be interested in your thoughts.
Yes. So I am definitely a people watcher. In fact, my kids get embarrassed sometimes at the grocery store because I will go down specific aisles and I'm just kind of gazing to see what people are picking up and how they're shopping. But really, I think some of the biggest stuff that we're going to continue to see is areas surrounding health and wellness, right? I think we got into COVID, and before COVID, it was really people were looking at their health and wellness more from like an aesthetics point of view. But now they're really seeing how what they put into their body affects their health and affects their mood. And we're in this age now where we have so much information at our fingertips. We walk around with a mini computer right there, so we can look up anything that we want. And so you're going to see people dive into that more. And then, still surrounding the health and wellness, we see these GLP-1s, which I know is a
Yes.
huge topic. Every single company is talking about it, right? How is this going to affect my business? But those are going to become more and more accessible. They're becoming more accessible right now. And so people are going to focus on how can I have these and still, somewhat maintain my lifestyle, and how is it going to enhance my lifestyle even? So I think as we think about it, we really need to understand that we're going to have a consumer where you're not just going to be able to make a claim. You're going to have that data to back it up because they're going to be looking for that data to back it up.
Sure. What are your thoughts on affordability? Because we see it in the news, and then we also see kind of this bifurcation conversation, the haves and the have-nots. But what do you think is potentially going to happen here in 2026 and beyond?
I would say for 2026, I think we're still going to see people kind of pulling back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to make that decision of what's a need and what's a want, what fits into this healthy lifestyle, what fits into my kids' lifestyle. And so just really, how can I make my dollar stretch as far as it can? And to your point, the bifurcation, like we're going to see people where they have $2 to spend on something, or they have $2 per ounce to spend on something. And you're going to have to determine where, which of those consumers you're going after, because there's a possibility that you're not going to be able to capture both.
Right. So it's just interesting. So obviously, your stuff, you're definitely interested in insights, and you've been all over the place. But when you got started, you look at your background, and you came out of computer science. So I'm wondering what caused you to then go into, our industry, and then from there, what you're doing today.
Yes. So computer science. And I laugh because I don't think anybody ever expects to see that on a resume for this industry. But, one thing that computer science really does teach you is to think outside the box. You have it is the foundation of solving problems, right? And you have to figure out how you're going to talk to that computer to teach it to solve the problem for you. And so going and just applying that to category management, we're solving problems. And so how do we think outside the box to solve those problems? Now, how did I get from computer science to category management? I started with bases. And so anybody that's been around CPG for a while knows bases is, new item testing. And I was programming the surveys that those took those new ideas and presented them to the consumer so that they could start looking at what they needed and or how these people were going to respond to whatever the new product was, right? And I got really curious about what we were doing with that data. So I would collect the data, but I would never see it again. And I got really, really curious. So I took a role with what is now Nielsen as an analyst, and started looking at that data and helping to understand what their sales were and why their sales were that way. And that's, it was a lot of point of sale. There wasn't as much panel at that point. But that's how I got my first glance into the CPG world. And then from there, Nielsen had some restructuring, and I found myself at PL Marketing, which is a broker for Kroger private label. And that was really an even wider expanse into the world of category management.
Sure. So let's talk PL marketing, because there's just a bunch of surprises when we look at your experience. So one of the things that I noticed is that you got into space planning, doing planograms, 1,000 planograms, managing a 10-person team. How do you go from like a year or two prior being at Bases and doing computer programming to all of a sudden understanding what to do when it comes to creating or drawing up a planogram and managing a 10-person team?
So the 10-person team, this was a floating team, right?
Okay.
So we were like the process managers.
Sure.
We would write the core planograms, and then we would send those to this 10-person team so that they could flush it out.
Got it.
But it was kind of where the business needed the resources at that point, right? But how did I go from there? So I took the role as a space analyst with PL Marketing. So my job was completely planograms and in the frozen department, which is still the best department in my opinion. But I had a wonderful mentor there. Her name was Mary Doyle. She had been working in the frozen department doing planograms. She would probably not be happy with me if I told you how long, but she was just a wonderful person, and she taught me so much about planogramming, and really just kind of stood right by my side as I was learning and explained, how to account for how much time it was going to take per door, depending on the category, and why we would put these items up higher or these items down lower, how to make sure that we had, if you're looking at lean cuisine, making sure that you had all of their different pieces that they wanted next to each other. So really, it was just that mentorship from her that helped scale that knowledge very quickly.
Okay. So I'm wondering, when you say that and you're like the number of hours and all that, was there something in particular that was really hard for you to because you've got this technical background and you know data, but where did you run into trouble?
It was always, probably just fitting things into those doors, because you
got it.
only had you couldn't bleed over a little bit. It was a door.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just making sure everything fit. And the blocks. I love a good, clean brand block. And so if you couldn't get that good, clean brand block, it got frustrating.
So you're a perfectionist.
I like things to look as good as they can.
Got it. All right. There you go. All right. So, so you had this experience, you're learning, planogramming. I'm wondering, now we're in the world of AI. And how is AI, how are you ramping up to that? How has that been impacting you? And then another thing that I want to ask in conjunction with that, what do you think about AI? Because some people say that they're worried about it and it's a risk. Other people think it's great and it's an enhancement. So I'm just wondering, just in general, what are your thoughts in that area?
Yes, I'm going to start with that question.
Okay.
I really think it's going to be an enhancement. I think if you look at how much data we have I mean, just think about your own personal phone and how much data you have on your phone,
Yeah.
and think about all the data then that we have out of shoppers. I think it's a great tool to be able to consolidate that data. It's a great tool. I personally love to use it to, I'll tell it to look through forums or look through social media comments to get some like real sentiments. It's not, something that we're paying people to answer. It's what they really think about whatever's going on. And so just thinking about new ways to use it. So not necessarily thinking like, do I think it's going to replace me? No. Do I think there's portions of my job that it could replace and enhance? Absolutely. And I think that would just free us up as category managers to really dig in and find those nuggets rather than, the more of just building reports and putting reports together and pulling the data. Now we can really start to sift through it and really capture those nuggets.
Got it. Got it. I do want to go back, and I neglected to ask this question, but I think it's good here. As you were on Frozen, we're doing AI. There's all these different steps that you've made along the way. You're fresh, Frozen, category management, shopper insights. Was that planned? Because most people would say no, I just had, I took the opportunity and I ran with it. But other people say, you know what? No, I actually wanted to get exposure. What's your thought on your career and your journey, and how prescriptive was it?
So initially, I would say it was not the plan. And where that plan started to form was that last role that I had with PL Marketing, where I was a dedicated analyst for the Kroger corporate brand team. And I got to see so much of how a retailer like Kroger works and how they've stayed around for so long. And I thought, I really need to get exposure. If I really want to grow my career, I need to get exposure to multiple different facets of this department, even just, category management. So that was a role with private label. And it was an amazing role to work on private label because I don't think that a ton of people get that experience, and seeing it really from the retailer's point of view and how those items are going onto the shelf and how they're competing with the national CPGs. And then from there, I went to a DSD role. So learning how that direct store delivery works and how all of the little nuances, right? So I was looking at, could this item be delivered by this bottler to the store because it's in the right zip code, and making sure that the planograms lined up with that. So very detailed work. And then after that, taking a role in with Foster Farms and being on fresh meat, and learning that is a totally different world.
Yes, it is.
Than the rest of it. So it's really every move has been planned. Every move has been, from this point on, it's been either a new role or a new department or a new delivery method, but there was something to learn there for my career.
I'm totally interested in fresh because I've spent part of my career around that area or that department. What'd you learn in fresh? What was different? What was maybe more challenging than you thought?
I will say the markdown codes were probably the most challenging piece of fresh that I had the hardest time wrapping my head around. Especially when you try to track it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to look through all of that. And you're like, wait a minute, but it doesn't just start with, these 6 digits. I have to look through all these other ones. But no, it was very, you don't have the planograms out there. And you think about, because I was there during COVID too, and you think about how that affects supply chain.
Yeah.
And if you're running out of toilet paper, you can run the machines a couple more times, right? And make some more toilet paper. You can't grow a chicken faster. So it was interesting in that perspective of the balance then that you are looking at, where you're dealing with live animals and how they're going to, make it from the farm to the grocery store. And are you going to have enough supply?
I'm going to ask you again, or at least touch on, and her name, was it Mary Doyle?
Yes.
Okay. So your mentor, and I'm assuming with you moving around as much as you have in different departments and learning different things, mentorship meant a lot. But I'm wondering if you could articulate a little more. You kind of did, but what is the importance of a mentor? Who else maybe has influenced you along the way?
Oh gosh, I think I would say I've found somebody at every company, and whether they knew it or not, right? Sometimes it's someone who's in a completely different department, but you just like their working style. And so you kind of pay attention to how they carry themselves or what they're saying or what they have to say. Um, but in terms of mentorship, I just think it's important that we learn from those who went before us, who've been in the roles, who understand there's always a perspective to that you're probably not thinking of, right? I know that there's always perspective I'm not thinking of.
Yeah.
So I always want to know from someone else what is their perspective, and just learning from them and knowing that, bouncing ideas off of them. Hey, I'd love to take this risk, but help me think it through, especially if you have the experience that you can help me think this through. So Mary was probably one of my first mentors. Another one from PL Marketing would be John Sikorsky. So he is, I'm going to get his title wrong, but he's like the top IT guy there now.
Yeah.
One thing that was wonderful about him was that he always just he let me kind of tinker around with reports and, see if we could do something great with them. So I think that's, it's kind of a quiet mentorship too, of just that support behind you as you're growing your career.
So we're at the last question in this round, and it's a new one for you, but I'm wondering if you went back and had a conversation with your younger self, the one that was graduating with a CS degree, given all that you've learned, what would you tell Kate back then about what she could expect now?
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be something that you planned, and to stay curious. Always be willing to ask the question. Always ask another why. I had a leader once say, it's like peeling back layers of an onion. Just keep peeling the layers until you find the answer. And so, yeah, just keep peeling the onion.
Got it. All right. Well, you've been in the trenches for a little bit of time here, so I'm going to let you kind of sit back, get a drink, take a breath, and let's come up for air. Finally, coming up for air. If maybe you could talk a little bit about family, you kind of mentioned Cincinnati, but anything you'd like to share with our audience so they can learn more about Kate?
Yes. So I'm married. I actually have been married for, I guess it's going to be 17 years.
Nice.
I had to do that math really quick. I'm like, I can tell you it's 2009. Whatever that math is.
Yeah.
But I actually married someone that I met at Macy's.
Mm.
So, he has been wonderful. We have 3 beautiful kids, a son and 2 daughters, all very active in sports. I have 2 swimmers, 3 lacrosse players, 3 basketball players. So keeping us very busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, we live in Cincinnati. We enjoy staying active, if you can't tell. And then we have 2 dogs. So
oh, full house.
it is a very full house. Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, we just have a couple minutes left. And so I asked you the question about what would you say to your younger self. But what would you say to our audience? Maybe some key points, recommendations, things that you've learned that you want to share that could help them in their career.
Yes. And I'm probably going to reiterate the stay curious. Stay curious and always be willing to grow. One of my favorite podcasts, besides this one, obviously, is Ed Milet's podcast.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
It's the Ed Milet Show, and he is just very big on personal growth and really diving deep inside to find out what's holding you back so that you can become your best self. And so just keep working towards, your best self, and it'll shine through.
Awesome. Well, since this is your favorite or one of your favorite podcasts, I have a favor for you. So now that you've been on ARCast and you kind of know the drill, if you could recommend someone that should next appear on the show, who would that be?
I'm going to recommend Hassan Issa to you. He is an expert in storytelling with data.
Ooh.
So you really should talk to him.
Yeah, Hassan would be great. So if you can make that connection, it would be much appreciated.
Absolutely. Happy to.
Awesome. Well, Kate, it's been great having you on the show. We learned a lot of fun stuff, as well as a lot of instructive things that we could take with us to help us in our own career. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you've listened to another amazing episode of ARCast. Please look forward to more interesting people like Kate in the weeks to come. And also, please don't forget to share ARCast with your colleagues. So for feedback, topic suggestions, or if you want to be on the show, please go to www.catman.global/ARCast. There's a form right down at the bottom of the screen. You just need to scroll down, fill that out. It'll come to me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Today's episode was produced by Zach Peterson, and it was edited by Jake Nemi and recorded at Studio Xerxes in Minnesota. Our theme music was brought to you by Bryant Lowry. And also a special thanks to my friends at the Association of Retail and Consumer Professionals for their promotion and management. Have a great day. Thanks.